One thing we focus on this show a lot is time. It's been kind of a theme for the last year or so, because time is the one thing that we all share in common. We may have different skills, interests, hobbies. We may have entirely different values, but we are all bound by time. If you're listening to the show, you probably want to know how to use your time as effectively as possible. And we're not talking about the hyper-productivity kind of advice that you might get. Maybe you've gotten it here, actually, on this show before, but that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're just talking about spending your time in a way that is explicit and intentional. And when we say intentional, we're going to actually kind of bracket that. We're going to explain what we mean by intentional in today's episode. If you think about why you spend your time the way that you do, you may come up with a list of answers. The list may include obligations, things that you really don't have a lot of agency over, or at least you don't believe you have much agency over them. It's worth challenging that. But things that you kind of take as constant. An example of this for me is that I don't really have a choice. In the mornings, I need to get my son to school. Now, there are many ways I could do that, but ultimately there's some kind of time or money or some combination of both of those things that is required to get my son to school. And for the sake of today's discussion, we're going to set aside the theoretical idea that my many decisions kind of lead to other decisions. So I'm not really making a decision today in isolation. I'm actually responding to other decisions that I've made in the past. That's true. It's worth thinking about at some point, but it's not practical for today's episode. Instead, I want to think about all of these reasons why I do the things that I do, why I spend my time the way that I spend it. We've talked about doing an audit of your calendar in the past before, and in today's episode, you may do a similar kind of exercise, but we're going to put a new lens on that exercise. Today, we're going to introduce a new framework for thinking about this. It's not necessarily novel, but it's new to this show. We're going to talk about this framework and how you might go about executing it right after we talk about today's sponsor, Miro. Folks, I'm very excited to talk about today's sponsor, Miro, because I genuinely use this tool almost every single day at work. In fact, probably every day. And that's no exaggeration, because it helps take a ton of information from a variety of sources and brings every person on your team onto the same page. Literally, you get a team board that you can all work from. The centralized board can simplify complex projects for every stakeholder. That's in the copy, but it's actually true. It's something I really believe. Miro has helped me do so much with our team. The thing I want to talk about today that Miro does, it helps us plan and surface complex topics in engineering planning. So if we're looking at, user stories, let's say, we might have a whole list of user stories and we've got a bunch of questions about those. How do we get those questions documented? Are we going to comment forever in our issue tracker? No, we're going to go to Miro. We're going to have a session, a working session in Miro. This is the most collaborative place, and genuinely, this is not a joke. The team that I'm leading right now says that this is their favorite part of our team meetings. Their favorite part of our team meetings is when we go to Miro. That's actually true. It's a bunch of engineers who are saying that. And that's because you actually get a chance to hear all of the voices in the room, perhaps for the first time in a long time. If you're used to synchronous meetings, Miro can totally change your life. I promise. Go and check it out. Head over to Miro.com/podcast. That's Miro.com/podcast. Miro.com/podcast. Thanks again to Miro for sponsoring today's episode of Developer Tea. Let's talk about this framework of identifying how you are using your time and whether or not that's intentional. We've done this before, where you look at meetings that you're spending your time doing, where you do the ideal week exercise. If you've done those things, then that's a great starting point. Those are still valid exercises. This is not like the one framework to rule them all. It's a new lens to think about your time. So I want you to think about it in this specific way. If you were to look at all of the things on your calendar, try to identify who is expecting this from you. Who is expecting you to do that thing? It doesn't have to be on your calendar even. It might be just something that you do out of habit. Who is expecting you to spend your time in that particular way? And I want to give you a couple of categories. And I know that Miro is a sponsor, but I genuinely think that Miro would be a good tool to kind of brainstorm this out. You could use pen and paper. A spreadsheet might even do it, but something to get your thoughts out and to actually identify where you would map these ideas in these different categories. All right, so there's two audiences here. Yourself, right? Expectations from yourself and expectations from others. A version of this might be expectations from specific groups of others. You may want to set out your family, for example, as a distinct group who has expectations of you. Another way to think about this question of expectations is who cares? Who cares that you do this particular thing? All right. So for these two major categories, yourself and others, there are a couple of different categories that you're, spending your time, these events, these activities that you participate in, that they can fall under as it relates to the expectations of that group. So there might be things that you are doing that no one, yourself or others, expect you to do. No one cares that you do that thing. Now, just to add a little bit of color, when we say expect here, what we're saying is they want or they are in some way benefited by you doing that thing. They expect you to do it, whether it's because it's your role to do that. Maybe you've established those expectations. For some reason, there is a desire for you to do the thing. So that first category is a notable one. We'll come back to it. The category of nobody caring. Nobody's expecting you to do this thing, and you are still doing it. You may be able to fill in the other categories. You expect yourself to do it, while others do not expect you to do it. You don't expect yourself to do it, but others do expect you to do it. Or you both expect you to do it. But there's a little bit of a nuance with the others expect you to do it category. So whether you think it's just others that expect you to do it or you and others expect you to do something, the reality is you don't know for certain. You believe that others expect you to do it. So there is another category where you believe that others expect you to do something, but they actually don't. And then you believe that they don't expect you to do something, but they actually do. And these are the most interesting categories because this is where our brain tends to trick us. A lot of times we believe that others expect something from us that they actually don't. And because we often don't share our expectations with one another, there may be expectations that you have of another person or that another person has of you that the opposite party doesn't know about. And the important thing here is that when you're spending your time intentionally, there are a few categories to zoom into, a few things that you really care about. Of course, setting expectations of yourself is important. For example, you may expect yourself to invest in your own health. You may spend time being physically active, for example. This is an expectation that you're putting on yourself. But what about that category that nobody expects you to do something, a particular thing? That might be, for example, something that you do on autopilot, something that you waste time doing. You may not even enjoy it. It may not provide you any kind of fulfillment or satisfaction. It's just purely a waste of time. Now, sometimes this is done out of habit, but more often than not, this particular category is actually the category of You don't expect yourself to do it, but you believe, incorrectly, that someone else expects you to do it. Now, to save you from me saying the word expect 100 more times, let's back up and talk about these categories and what you do with this information once you've kind of gone through an exercise like this. Something you'll probably notice is that you make a lot of assumptions about what other people want from you. It's important to try to validate those assumptions in whatever way you can. Now, it might be awkward to ask somebody, well, what is it that you want from me? Especially if this is a personal relationship that you have. You may be able to fill in the blanks a little bit here. And it's not about getting this thing perfect, but rather recognizing opportunities to reduce the amount of time that you spend doing things that you don't expect from yourself. In an optimal situation, you would find overlap in as many activities as you can find. That is, other people benefit from your actions and you also benefit from your actions. Others expect and you expect. At the very least, what you should be able to walk away with, if you look at the way you spend your time through this lens, is a clearer indication of why. Why are you spending your time in that particular way? Who does it benefit? And if it doesn't benefit you directly, why do it in the first place? There are good answers to that question. That's not necessarily a rhetorical question. Why do it in the first place might be that you do eventually get a benefit from that action. Arguably, a lot of the things that you spend your time doing that others want you to do have delayed benefits rather than direct benefits. It's worth your time to validate and recognize which of the things that you're doing fit in that category. These are what you might call necessary evils in your schedule, or they may fit in the category of selfless sacrifice. Whatever you choose to spend your time on is really up to you. My challenge to you is to do it on purpose. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. A huge thank you once again to Miro. Miro is seriously probably the most used, consistently used tool on my team right now that makes a gigantic impact in our productivity and in our closeness as a team. We'll talk more about Miro in upcoming episodes of the show and other kinds of things that Miro can help you do. But for now, you can get started today. Your first 3 Miro boards are free. And by the way, a board can do a lot. So that's nothing to shake a stick at there. That's miro.com/podcast. miro.com/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you like Developer Tea to keep on going, you can help us out in 2 ways. One, share this episode directly with somebody that you think would appreciate it. And the second way is to leave a review in whatever podcasting platform you subscribe through. This is a huge help to the show. You know this. We don't have to keep on beating the same drum. You know that this is helpful because you probably found the show in a similar way. Either somebody shared it with you or you found it through a review. Not from me. It's very unlikely that you heard about the show from me. So if you want us to keep doing this, that's the best way you can help us. Finally, if you'd like to join the Developer Tea Discord community, head over to developertea.com/Discord. We talk about all of the things that you hear on this show and more in that community. That's developertea.com/Discord. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, enjoy your tea.